I have often bet under 2.5 goals bet on sporting events, and at one point I noticed that a serious part of the times when this bet goes wrong is at the end of the games. Then I decided to do some research, and it turns out that out of over 320 bets, over 61% of the times my bet runs away because of the goals after the 70th minute. This led me to dig around and find some very interesting patterns in goals at the end of the games, which I will tell you about today. The late goals strategy has actually been used for quite a long time and by various of people who have implemented it successfully. What is this strategy? Let me first clarify that there is no easy way to make money from betting. It takes some skills in this, and you certainly need hard work and consistency to succeed. The tactics I am about to talk about now are no exceptions. So the main idea is to bet goals in the end of the games. We play only live bets, and this should at most be a bet to have a goal after the 80th minute. And the basis of this relatively easy strategy is to follow a few basic rules. For the more highly liquid bets, that is the bets that are more recognizable matches, you will see a goal at the end option, as usually bookmakers have a huge margin on this exact market before the match. For example, in the Premier League, in most games you will see between the 72nd and the 77th minute as the line set. Accordingly, you can bet on whether there will be a goal or no goal after any of those minutes, and the odds for that are 1.83 in both cases. That is, as I said, a huge margin. Before we go any further, I would remind you to log on to our website bettingnon.com to see more about our service. We offer value bets that represent errors in odds from bookmakers, which benefits us and our customers in the long run. Coming back to the topic of when you are going to follow a match to possibly place a bet on a goal after the 80th of minute, it is very important that you know in advance which is the minute set by the bookmaker beforehand, that you can bet on whether or not there will be goal after that. If a given match the odds are worse in that minute alive that there are before the game, then don't play it, because as I said in the past video, you don't want to put yourself in a worse position than before the match started, right? Now the main factors that we are looking at. First, you don't pick the highest scoring teams, you only pick the teams that have the most goals failing in their games after the 80th of minute compared to the others. Second, you need to go in depth and look at what percent of the games of given teams have goals fall after the 80th of minute, then divide those stats into home and away games, and finally see at what score the most goals fall. That is, for example, if there are a lot of goals in Bochum's games after the 80th of minute, but 80% of them are with the team is leading or losing, and not in tight games with a score of 0-0 or 1-1, then this must be taken into account. Third, as I said in the last video about the live matches, if you don't watch the match, don't bother betting at all. Watch what substitutions the coaches make, defensive or offensive. Investigate if those players coming to have turned against before. So again, you have to go deep here. Fourth, it's important to know the motivation and how prone teams are to a certain outcome before the game. A factor that should not be underestimated if the result does not suit one of them. Of course, even better if it does not suit both teams, but this happens less often. In such situations, we have the potential for a more open game at the end of the match. Fifth, use the analytics of XG or expected goals. This data will give you much better information than the statistics. Sixth, observe the way in which teams attack most often and try to interpret whether they have spotted their weak spots and therefore whether it is a matter of time before a goal falls. If you try to observe, you will see that very often a team scores a goal in a way it has already tried several times before in the match. Seventh, observe the stoppages in the game in the second half and try to predict how many minutes of extra time will be given. This is also a key factor. Eighth, choose the bookmakers that have the lowest margins and therefore the highest odds for this type of betting. In this strategy, you should play with the same amount of your bankroll always, which is the flat stake, and the bets are of course singles. Play at least 2.20 odds, as the idea is to catch around 50% of the bets, which will make you a profit in the long run. Of course, if the odds for the next goal reach 2.20 before the 8th minute and you have the available factors you need to bet, do it before the 80th minute as well. Now I'll give you also a couple of websites that you can use as tools and information for your analysis and selections. Soccerstats.com. Here you will find exactly these specific stats for goals in all periods of matches. Footystats.org. Here you will find averages and percentages of specific stats, which you can also use as a starting point. Remember that each odd is reciprocal to a certain probability percentages. Understat.com. Here you can see the expected goals, and you can also Google other sites for these analytics. TheStatsDon'tLie.com and BetInf.com are two more sites with some quite interesting and specific statistics.